All right, so now that you've covered arrays and how to create them and basically how to print out the entire array, we've done that. And you've covered the for in loop through a range of numbers. So you sort of go through the iteration over and over again, and a number is incremented each time. Let's take those concepts and put them together and see how we can actually iterate through an array and examine each element of the array. So we'll start out with our classic form. I'm going to say let because this is not going to change. And I might say favorite cities equals. And then I'm going to use, again, type inference here. So, and I start an array with an open left bracket. And I'm going to say Chicago because that's where I live. So that's one of my favorite cities. I'm also going to say San Diego is an awesome city and beautiful weather. And a really fun place to go is, let's say, New York. And we can do one more, let's say Cincinnati, since I'm recording this right after the Super Bowl the next day. And even though they didn't win, I was rooting for Cincinnati. So we have 4 cities here. And what you know how to do already is just say print favorite cities. Now notice I just, again, use the completion there. I'm going to do a Command B for a building. We'll let it build. And then I'm going to do a Command R to run this. And down in the console, we should see all 4 of those printed out here, which we do. Excellent. So that looks good. But what we want to do is actually iterate over each one of these. And maybe what we want to do is, well, first let's just iterate over them. And I'll show you how to do that with the for in loop. So it turns out what you can do is say for, give it a variable name. So if I'm going through favorite cities, the variable that is going to take on each one of these should have a name that represents that. That would be city. So I would say for city in favorite cities. So again, favorite cities, instead of this being a range like we had before. So when we first did our for loops, we would say for, let's say, index in 0 ... less than 10, right? That would be how we would iterate and count from 0 up through 9. But we're not going to do that. We're going to say for city in favorite cities. And it turns out favorite cities is what's referred to as iterable, which means that we can iterate through each element. It's an ordered list, right? So for city in favorite cities, open paren, or open left bracket, close right bracket, it gave that for me. So now inside this loop, we can do something. Well, what if I said I wanted to print city, right? So I could say print. So instead of printing all of it, the entire array, I'm going to print just one element of the array, but I'm going to do this for every single instance that's in here. So now when I run this, I should get those things on separate lines, which I do. Notice it says Chicago, San Diego, New York, and Cincinnati. And sure enough, I've iterated through that array and picked out each element of the array. And of course, if I added yet a 5th city here, maybe I put in here San Francisco, and I do Command R, notice none of our code had to change here, but now it iterated over all 5 cities. So that's an easy way to iterate through an array. Now, the other little trick has nothing to do with the for in and the iteration, though I do want to show you something neat about the print statement, is we could say here, a favorite city is, and then right after that, I want that city variable to put the city name in there. So we could do that one of 2 ways. You might, in some languages, say plus city. So that's fine. You can do that. But a nicer way to do it is through what we refer to as string interpolation. And string interpolation basically says that you can put a variable name right inside the string. Now, we can't just say my favorite city is city because it thinks this is text. It doesn't know you're referring to this variable here. But when you do want to refer to a variable inside a string, what I want you to learn is you do backslash, open, close, paren. So you're doing backslash, open, close, paren. That syntax right there is telling the compiler that whatever's inside this is going to be a variable name. So we could put in here city, And notice how it highlights it differently, right? Because now city is referring to this city here, and this city is just the text city. So now when this runs, we should get a favorite city is Chicago, a favorite city is San Diego, and so forth. So let's run that and check it out. And sure enough, we got that. And of course, we don't have to, doesn't have to be at the end of the string either. So a favorite city is, I could put a period there and run this again, and now see how it substitutes in the city, and then it gives me the period at the end. So string interpolation is another cool thing to use, and that's how easy it is to iterate through an array. Now, one more thing to check out is you could iterate a little differently. You could say, favorite cities does have a count, right? So you could say, I'm going to go from 0 to favorite cities dot count. And we did a less than because we start counting at 0, right? So right now we have a 5 here, and then we have 4 city. Now this is not going to be a city anymore, right? Because this is a number. This is an index into the array. So we could just say index here. And now, of course, city is going to be invalid, right? If I do Command B, it says I don't see the variable city anymore. Well, that's right, because we took it away here. So how would we access the array based on this index? Well, we would say favorite cities, open left bracket, index, close right bracket. It gave us that for us as we typed it. And now if we do Command R, notice we get the same thing, right? We went from 0 to the number of elements here, and then we have the index, and then we actually use the index in the array. I don't like this as much. I think this is fine, but I think the way we did it before, where we just say city in favorite cities, is a lot easier to use, and we don't have to do this indexing here. So that's for in with arrays.